Today we were at the full stop in an existence which is important in the history of this area. W.B. Yeats, his grave, which has on it interesting words inviting the passer-by to face death in the eye, and an invitation for the horseman to pass by. In our terms we would say not to be too hasty over life, for a horseman is in a hurry and does not pause. Now, just as we hear the bell reminding us of that now, the chime, that is what we're doing for a few moments in this hour of mercy, pausing. In a sense also at that full stop, for it always helps us now and again to pause at a grave, at a funeral, at a requiem, just to think, just to think where we are going and where we are coming from, and are we going too quickly towards that full stop, for it will come. That also is the backdrop to the first reading, for St. Paul, in giving advice on marriage, is pressed by the urgency of the return of the Lord, which, remember, in that early stage was expected to be immediate. However, it is still valid, for our time is always short, and therefore the question does pose itself, is it worth doing this or that in the context of my full stop? Now, if one looks around, what does one observe? Paul's warning about passing through this world without getting attached to it, using it without being abused by it or owned by it, is eternally valid. What is actually happening globally now in this part of the world? I mean, civilized society in the West in general. Just observe. How many do actually pass through their day in a hurry? It's kind of serious stuff. Why should we go through this one life we have in hurried mode? We're getting there, and we're going to drop into that grave, as it were, out of breath, having rushed there and done everything except what we were given time for. Just by chance, the other day, I was reading something that was given to me by friends of mine, which they had downloaded. It was the testimony of a middle-aged man who had died, but had been, by medical skill, recalled to life. And he was a typical modern man. He was a Catholic by upbringing, but he had got involved with all the clutter of modern society, and it needed death to put the brakes on. He found that there was a beyond, and it was the only reality that evermore was before him. And in the face of it, he realized how all that hurry, all that getting involved, meant nothing and helped in no way. He was henceforth, 1 second after his death, alone, with no more escape or distraction. He could not turn to his mobile phone to escape the reality, or get into a screen to get sucked into something which easily kills time. He was alone with his past and his future, and he saw what the future was going to be. He saw also the specific areas that were getting him where he was going. Very specific areas, and they were the ones in which he was specifically called to holiness. His married life. He was treating his wife badly. His children, he was neglecting them. He was being judged, examined on the specific areas in which he was called to holiness. And he had not faced it all those married years. He was given a second chance, and of course the pain of coming back to a hurting body was enormous, but he came back. And what was the surprise of his wife and children when they found the new man that had come back from the grave? Only then did he start to teach them what he had taught himself through getting to the wrong side. That relationships are extremely, indeed centrally important. St. Paul talks about the relationship of marriage. No one can enter marriage without human maturity and the capacity to enter into the soul of the partner and to feel that partner's pain even by anticipation. No one can enter marriage with the mentality of seeking satisfaction and self. If two partners enter into that, there will be two centers of a divided solar system, each pulling, and it will not work. So anything with regard to engaging in deep friendship demands leaving oneself behind. One cannot find oneself by seeking oneself, and there is no joy in pleasure alone. There is no joy without peace. And in relationships, if peace is not there, the body will not suffice. For joy is not made of impulses. Joy is of the level of the soul, and the soul is not fooled. So that already on this side of the grave is our judge. Are we at peace? We cannot find true peace in the wrong areas. To escape the issue by in some way augmenting the possibilities of experience fed by the senses is to flee and not to face, and to end up ultimately in the situation of waking up like that man on the other side, having to face for the first time. So in that sense, to pause at the hour of mercy as we're doing at the altar of our God, and to hand him back the gift of time before, in some cases, we actually live it, is not indifferent. Before we live our one innings, the Lord places our life and therefore our eternity before us. So let's pause and hand it back, for he and he alone is our God. Peace, perfect peace, is the gift of Christ our Lord.
Wow. See? There's the snow that just bouncing off my shoulder.
The day thou gavest, Lord, is ended.
The darkness falls at thy behest. To thee our morning hymns ascended, thy praise shall hail an hour rest. We thank thee that thy church unsleeping, while earth rolls onward into night, through all the world her watch is keeping, and rests not now by day or night. As now each continent and island the dawn is on another day, the voice of prayer is never silent, the life is clean of praise away. The sun that bids us rest is waking our brethren neath the western sky, and by our fresh glimpse are making thy wondrous doings heard on high. So be it, Lord, thy throne shall never like us, but empires pass away. Thy kingdom stands and grows forever till all thy creatures own thy sway.